Can you repeat the great thing when I interviewed you today for my own little podcast?
Which part?
What I interviewed you today for my own little podcast?
Which part?
Out there in your green room. When I entered your actual natural...
The forest, you mean?
The great points you made about Biden are true. The 3 ways he's becoming a dictator.
Well, so I said that the Republic has fallen. And I did say this on my show earlier, but for those that didn't hear it, so there's it's hard to know exactly where the line is when you can say the Republic has fallen, but I think we can see it now. And the way to describe it is like a supernova. It happens, and we don't know for how many millions of years until the light finally reaches us. Oh, look, a supernova happened. 10 million. So the collapse happened, and now we're gradually, the light is making its way to us, but it already happened. So let me explain.
Exactly. The borders are collapsing,
so,
all of it.
Right. So the first thing I'll say is keep in mind the borders. But before I get to the borders, I'll say this. And everybody who watches probably heard me say something similar, but there is no separation of powers anymore. Joe Biden violated the separation of powers, bypassing Congress by enacting the first eviction moratorium, which stood for like a year, basically.
Where the CDC says you don't have to pay your rents, but most people only have one rental property and they go bankrupt if you don't.
These are retirees. So what Biden did with that executive order was effectively seize private property from the public without any resistance at all and no checks. So that bypass, it's an act of Congress. There's a lawsuit. The Supreme Court says, Biden, this is an illegal ruling. You can't do it. So you know what Biden did? I'm going to reenact it again anyway, thus bypassing the legislature twice and the Supreme Court. But he did it again with the new OSHA rule and the vaccine mandates. Once again, the sovereign has decreed, and everyone in this country, not everybody, most of these businesses just go along with
Which
it.
Which makes it criminal bullying.
Well, let me get to the better points. What can you do?
Mass non-compliance.
You as a peasant can petition the courts and say, I have been wronged by the sovereign decree. And if the court agrees with you being wronged, they perhaps may tell the sovereign, try again.
And then he does it again.
And they does it again. And what did the Democrats do? The Democrats are trying to use a budget bill to give citizenship to non-citizens. Now, the Senate parliamentarian says, you can't do that. And what does the left say? The Senate parliamentarian is wrong and it's tyranny. I don't know. I think the Senate parliamentarian it sounds crazy that someone can be like, you can't pass a bill. But for the Democrats to be like, instead of negotiating with the Republicans, because they're the minority and we don't have to, they use workarounds because we have two distinct cultures in this country fighting for centralized power and a sovereign at the top who's ruling by decree. How do you know the Republic has fallen? With all of that being said, illegal immigrants are walking back and forth between the southern border for carry out.
Yep.
When it can be so casual, they can go to get tacos and then walk back into the U.S. and then go back for tacos again the next day. There's no border. There's no jurisdiction. The president is ruling by decree in complete defiance of our laws, our norms, our traditions. And the left says the right's radicalized for rejecting it while they support rule by decree from Cuomo, from Wolf, from Gretchen Whitmer, from Newsom, and they reelect Newsom.
So how do we counter that?
Well, I don't know how familiar you are with James Lindsay's work at New Discourses, but he talks a lot about an essay by a guy named Herbert Marcuse, and I think it was called I forget the name of it, Liberal Tolerance, or not Liberal Tolerance. That was a book by Jonah Goldberg, I think. Repressive Tolerance, that's what it was. Oh. And essentially, it's the thought process that the left generally says that anything that is done by people of the left is acceptable and they'll make excuses for it. And the right, anything that's done by the right has to be shut down even before there's any action taken. So even conversations about what would be considered right-leaning ideas, those must be shut down. And anything that the left does. That's why you saw all last year Antifa and the riots that were going on throughout the U.S. The whole of the liberal media and stuff was making excuses, mostly saying it's okay because it was from the left, mostly
peaceful.
And then exactly. And then anything that the right does is made to seem as terrible as possible, and that's part of why anything that Donald Trump did got enormous amounts of criticism.
And January 6th is a great juxtapose because that was wrong what happened. A few people got out of hand. I said it was wrong day one. But then they're like saying, whoever says demonstrations are peaceful and go out and harass people, go out and attack them. They said that. And then I'm there trying to stop people and the left are putting bounties out to have me arrested. That's a great point.
That was Cuomo.
Yeah.
Chris Cuomo on CNN, right? Who says protests got to be peaceful? And that dude was like, it's the First Amendment. just gotta look it up.
But Maxine Waters had said the same thing. Go out and harass politicians and go and harass them when they're eating or whatever. And that has always been minimized and said, people say, it's okay, or it's not that big of a deal, or they make excuses. That book that was In Defense of Looting, all that stuff has been, all of this is a pattern that's undeniable, that makes it very clear that if you are of a left-leaning opinion, or if you're in service to left-leaning goals, it is okay, whatever you want to do. It's there. You're not going to get criticism. You're going to have the vice president raising money to help bail you out.
So here's the question.
That's what Kamala Harris
Here's
did.
the question. Where does that go then? Why is the establishment and the big corporations funding that move? What are they planning to do? What are they wanting out of this?
I think that really what it boils down to is it's the easiest path to some type of authoritarian control or more power to the federal government. We've got the largest government in human history, and if you think that the government isn't interested in affecting what you're allowed to think.
Exactly.
Because that's what they do.
Want to destabilize things and have a limited civil war, so then they crack down on everybody, and the left doesn't get that.
Not only that, but you look at what happened with Nicki Minaj recently, right? So she says things that are either off the wall or wrong or whatever, and the White House is reaching out saying we'll have someone. Why on earth would
Are they so afraid of somebody having free speech?
And why would they make time for someone that has a bad opinion or a wrong opinion, that they'll actually have the White House reach out to them? Obviously, it's because she throws a wrench in the narrative that they're trying to promote. But the idea that the White House is so interested in trying to control what people think
is very un-American and very dangerous.
It's really dangerous. I agree totally. It's very, very dangerous.
And you brought this up before, and so did you before we came up here. And this is something I didn't even know about, because I read a lot of news, and I heard people saying, did you hear how certain people at my office like a week ago, Alex, talk about how Facebook, they're like handing me piles of papers, and I was busy and didn't read it, how Facebook has 5+ million people that live under other rules than the other 3 billion people that are on there. So when you told me, I looked it up, there's the Wall Street Journal, how there's a secret elite who they have speech but nobody else does.
Yeah, we got to hear from CNBC. Facebook shields millions of VIP users from standard moderation protocols. They would have to. If we've been talking a lot about tech behind the scenes for fun.
Because they can override the censor because they have their own platform.
Well, so it's if you want an outcome, if you want to control for an outcome, then it can't be truly random. So we were talking about like lotteries. So lottery games, scratcher tickets, they're not random. They can't be. So there has to be an algorithm, an underlying algorithm, because if you want to control for the outcome and make sure only X amount of people win, so you retain more money than you spend, it can't be random.
Sure, the house always wins in the end.
So when it comes to Facebook and guarding the VIPs, it's really simple. They need a certain set of political discourse they deem acceptable, the controlled outcome. But of course, these people are going to say things that are breaking the rules, which is why on Twitter it's very obvious. On Twitter, the left breaks the rules over and over and over again, but it's acceptable. So Twitter is doing the same thing Facebook does. When we learn that Facebook has VIP users, should I be surprised? It was over 3 years ago, I showed Vijaya Gadde and Jack Dorsey themselves the Antifa account that was like, go here and do these things. And they were like, we're not taking it down. Like they left it up. They banned people who responded to it, but the tweet from the left calling for violence was allowed to remain.
And isn't that the ultimate form of bullying when you've got big corporations with paramilitary groups out firebombing things, and then they tell people that aren't even, I'm not even thinking of myself as a conservative, I don't think you do, as like it's kind of a mainline kind of populist liberal journalist, and then you look at them and they're all wrapped in this mantle, they control everything, and they're going to keep you safe while they've got factories with suicide nets around them, and it's preposterous. Well, and then the CNN and the New York Times says I should be banned for stuff I've said out of context, but they purposely lie about WMDs, and then millions of people die from starvation.
There's two things to consider, two potentialities. If it's true that there is a cabal that has as much power as they do and they're running things for a specific reason, why would this show be allowed to exist?
Well, that's because still a lot even of the establishment are pro-free speech, and this is a process. And the last time I was here, you actually taught me something really smart. And if you go back to that dialectic you were discussing about how there's a wheel and how the reason you're being left alone right now is because they haven't moved the wheel yet until you're not acceptable. And then it's the next group and the next group. So I was the guy 4 years ago, they taught us it's got to be banned, and then down the road it'll be you, and that's why you're smartly building your own infrastructure, your own plan. Joe went to Spotify to do kind of the same thing. I've done the same thing with ban.video, which they've banned that link, so it's freeworldnews.tv, and so that's really the renaissance, is always moving away from the empire, trying to set something up freer. It's always free for a while, and then we become what we ran from.
Yes. So the other point I was going to say is that. So there's actually, I'll say another point on that, but I was going to say there's two things. One is, why would they allow this to happen? Well, it's one potential answer is, as I described it to you last time, for those that aren't familiar, there's a wheel, and you've got right wing, center right, centrist, center left, and left. And when I started, they called me left wing, even with the same opinions I have now, like saying, I like universal health care. I think there's problems with implementing it. I'm pro-choice. My political opinions are relatively the same. Then all of a sudden, they started calling me a centrist. Now they're calling me right wing. You've been banned. Steve Bannon's far right. Tucker Carlson's now far right. Eventually the wheel will turn again, and I'll become far right. And then once that happens, they lop off the one side.
And then it's Nazi at the end.
But the other potentiality is, I don't know the quotes from. I don't know if it's Michael Mouse's quote. If they were winning, the propaganda wouldn't be necessary.
Oh, I totally agree. Listen, they can't do too much and turn us all against them. And that's already kind of happening. So that's the real answer. And there's also different power structures in the elite. There are billionaires and people out there that aren't tyrants and that believe in America. So it's really a handful of really ruthless select corporations that Klaus Schwab used to run the Bilderberg Group. And I remember it wasn't until 10, 11 years ago, the media would even admit Bilderberg Group existed. People would say, Alex, that doesn't exist.
That's the weird thing.
And then he went and he has Davos, which is the public arm of that, and he used to run the UN biological diversity system. So he's really the head of the UN program, and so it's a corporate takeover through fake leftist ideas.
The crazy thing to me is that during Occupy Wall Street, Bilderberg was a conspiracy theory.
Yes.
And then a few years later, it was like, Bilderberg, who cares? It's whatever.
Well, they got smart instead of just denying it existed. Because I remember the New York Times, like 12 years ago. They were meeting in Chantilly, Virginia, Bilderberg. We stayed in the hotel till they closed it. The King of Spain got there. They saluted him. I got out, and there were Marines there guarding it in plain clothes. They flipped out. They had helicopters, Secret Service. So they went to my hotel, threatened me, all this stuff. It was insane. Pulled a fire alarm on us, said we did it. At the other hotel we were staying at, did it one at the one we were there. It's a long story. And the New York Times said Alex Jones was in a field in Virginia imagining helicopters and men with sunglasses. I put out a film called Endgame that showed all the footage in multiple countries. It took me 4 years to make, in Europe, in Canada, and then in the U.S. Put the film out, and they're literally in the New York Times saying Jones is insane, having a full-on hallucination at a Chantilly, Virginia conference hotel. Okay, so I'm seeing the King of Spain. I'm getting video of the Queen of the Netherlands. I have the video. Okay. And then they're saying it doesn't exist.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.